Hello, gentlemen. My name is Mark Dunne, and I'm a growth companies reporter at Shares magazine. Welcome to the afternoon session of today's conference, where 5 companies will explain how they're being innovative in stealing market share and hopefully ultimately boosting shareholder value. But first, I would like to explain how innovation is shaping one particular industry and potentially creating huge opportunities for investors. That's healthcare. Could you? Before we start, some housekeeping. Out of courtesy for others, could you please make sure that all mobile phones are switched off? Thank you. Now, I know some of you might have been here all day, so you may already have heard this, but I'm afraid I've got to read the following disclaimer to you all. Okay? The seminars today intended for educational purposes only, and as such are not a solicitation, endorsement, or recommendation to make an investment based on the contents of these seminars. Where investment types are mentioned, please be aware that there are other options available. The value of investments and any income from them may go down as well as up. You may not get back all of your original investments. Past performance is not necessarily a guide to future performance. Options expressed in these seminars are those of the presenters and not the event organisers. The event organisers accept no liability for any losses caused by the use of this information. If there is any doubt over the suitability of a particular investment, then you should seek independent advice. Tax treatment depends on the individual circumstances of each person and may be subject to change in the future. You all know that anyway, of course. So, good to get that way. Move on. Okay, a few months back, a fund manager told me something I was quite shocked at. He's a guy who invests in pharmaceuticals. And he said that he would rather be diagnosed with HIV than diabetes, which took me back a little bit. But as he explained, I mean, science cannot cure HIV, okay? But 20 years ago, it was a death sentence. Today, they can control it. Okay, take a lot of tablets, but they can get it under control. So HIV is now more likely to be an illness that you could die with rather than from. And that's a great stride in medical science. If anything shows where medical science has got to in the last 20 years, it's that. And there are people sitting in labs as we speak now, looking through microscopes, trying to build the drugs of tomorrow, drugs of the future. After many failures, they're having to be a little more innovative in how they get their research, that little bottle of pills out of the lab and onto the pharmaceuticals shelves. Using animal tissue, for instance, to replace worn-out body joints is one such innovation that biotechs have been developing to meet global demand and improve treatments in healthcare. Now, some of the things that you'll hear in this little speech might sound like something that's been lifted out of an episode of Star Trek, but I do assure you that some of these companies, they are making progress, they are generating data, they are getting products to market, which is all important. But before we look in healthcare companies being innovative, let's consider some of the reasons why demand is expected to be strong. People are getting older, much older, they're living longer. Not only people living longer, they're also on a whole wealthier than their parents' generation, and they want a more active retirement. Don't take my word for it. The government says there are 10 million people in the UK today, over 65 or above. That's 1 in every 6 people that you pass on your way home tonight will be a pensioner. In the next 35 years, that figure will almost double to 19 million. That's 1 in 4 of the UK population. There's more. Today, there are 3 million people in this country aged 80 or above. By 2050, there'll be 8 million. There you go. Economics is also a driver. The company needs to keep people out of hospital and getting doctors to write fewer prescriptions because it just can't afford it anymore. The cost of healthcare as a percentage of GDP is rising. 3 years ago, the government spent almost 10% of its budget on healthcare, which improved almost 2% year on year. Okay. So the market's there, the political will is there. That means that rewards for companies and their investors can be high if they actually get the treatment out of the lab and again into the doctor's bag. But indeed, few industries can match the potential rewards that those receive from successfully bringing a new treatment to market can achieve. Biotech's current poster boy is a US company called Gilead Sciences. In the first 9 months of last year, it sold $8.5 billion worth of a drug called Sovaldi, which is the only known cure for liver rotting disease, hepatitis C. So the rewards for tech investors in the sector are there. Now, I take it you've all heard of a guy called Neil Woodford. Yeah. Well, he's a fund manager, and 34% of his assets under management are all in healthcare companies. That's double the 17% of his portfolio in industrials, which is the second most popular industry in his portfolio. Investors are giving him 4.2 billion quid of their cash, so it's pretty sure that they think he knows something about how the market is going. Yeah. Okay, now some of the innovations investors were presented with when looking in the market, healthcare market, will include one company using cannabis to ease cancer pain. GW Pharmaceuticals is researching the plant to see if its properties can be used to ease pain caused by several conditions, another being multiple sclerosis. It is succeeding, this isn't just fantasy. It's got a treatment on the market, in the US as well, the biggest market going, and it's got 8 other products in clinical trials, so it could be bringing more to market in the coming years. So if anybody's interested, it's actually in a spray form. So the humble plaster does what it needs to do and has been doing it and doing it very well for quite a long time. But what if the wound is too large and too deep for a plaster? Well, you could make a bigger plaster, or you could think of a new approach, just like a company called Tissue Regenix has. It takes what it calls tissue for human donors, and it uses it to graft onto wounds of other people. The idea is that the cells from the patient will flow to the area and will generate the wound and speed up the recovery process. Gotcha. So these are the companies who are looking at new ways to fix old problems. Then there's personalised medicines. I'm sure many of you might have heard that expression before. Well, this seeks to solve one of healthcare's biggest problems, that some drugs work on some people, but not on others. One person can drink a cup of coffee 11 o'clock at night and then be spark out, get a perfect night's sleep, 8 hours, whereas another guy, he couldn't touch coffee after 4 p.m. because he won't sleep at all at night. That's because genetically they're different. So some people just metabolize caffeine faster than others. But if those two people had the same headache, stomachache, whatever, and they went to a pharmacy, and the pharmacist, he or she will give them the same drug and ask them to take the same dosage. Okay, so we've got different people. People have different metabolisms. They have different weights, but they're diagnosed the same treatment, the same dose. Antidepressants, for example, only works apparently on 4 out of every 10 people they're prescribed to. And the doctor has absolutely no idea if when you walk through the door, if you're in the 4 group or in the 6 group. Okay, so he gives the 2 people their tablets, one of them doesn't work, they come back in a month's time, hasn't worked, gives them someone else, they go back, and they go for the whole process again. Gotcha. So by studying generics and genomics, you can help identify the people in the group, whether you're a 4 or a 6, to find out if a particular drug will work on you or not. Horizon Discovery, I don't know if any of you ever heard of it. That's one such company. It's working with some of the world's largest pharmaceuticals to make better and more efficient drugs. So that's one theme in healthcare at the moment. It's not actually making drugs for yourself, it's helping other people, applying your expertise, your technology, your patents to help other people get drugs to market and get them working faster and more efficiently. Okay. Now, some of the stuff in labs was considered science fiction some 20 years ago, getting close to reality today. Things like cell therapy. Does anyone remember watching the news? There was a Polish guy. He got stabbed in the back and was confined to a wheelchair. Well, he was walking again now, thanks to cell therapy. And that's amazing. They've literally taken cells out of his nose and they've put it in his back of his neck, and they've got in there, and that sort of regenerated some of the dead cells, and very slowly he's learning to walk again. There is a UK company that's working on something very similar called Reneuron. They're looking to help stroke victims recover from their injuries. It's an injection into the brain, which they hope will bring dead brain cells back to life and literally help people get back on their feet. That's all good. Just another way the companies are working to get a product to market and create an opportunity for investors. Okay, now this is what investors can expect if the company they're backing is doing well and getting a product to market. This is a company called Angle. It's a medical technology company, and it's developed a cancer detection device. Now, last month it released some data that said that its device could detect ovarian cancer in 9 out of 10 sufferers, which beat the 24.5% average using existing methods. Now, that device is now entering clinical trials. Expectations are high, and as you can see here, give me a laser, last week, up 51%. Just shows what happens when a company gets some good news. Okay. On the other side of the coin, this is what happens when a company gets it wrong, and let's be honest, many do. This is Verona Pharma. It's a drug company that specialises in breathing illnesses, problems in the lungs and whatever. And a lack of positive news flow started hitting the company from March. That's my laser. From March, it also had to tap its investors for 13 million quid, which was dilutive, didn't go very well. And then come June, bad news, a drug that it had in clinical trials proved not to have worked, so it failed. These things do. So you can see what actually happens when things go wrong there. So the rewards can be high, but the risks are just as high, if not higher. And innovation costs, it can take years of trial and error, millions of pounds of your cash, until it becomes clear if a product is more than just a fantastic idea. And that's quite a long time. According to some research from the Association of British Pharmaceutical Industry, it costs an average of 1.1 billion and 12 years to bring a product to market. So if a drug fails in clinical trials, the share price will most likely collapse and your money with it. Okay, now, of only 1 in 10 biotech drugs that entered the clinical trials between 2003 and 2011 reached the market, according to a US research group. But it gets worse. That research doesn't actually include all the treatments that didn't make it to the first clinical trial phase. So the failure rate is actually higher than people think. So, but many drugs fail for many reasons. It fails because it's not as effective as an existing treatment, it's harmful, or it just simply doesn't work. So biotech clearly is a long-term and risky punt for investors. So not for those with a low risk for appetite. So businesses usually go bust if they can prove drug doesn't work. An example of this is Phytopharm. I don't remember if anyone remembers it from a few years back. It lost 80% of its value. It had a Parkinson's disease drug, which clinical trials proved it didn't work. So they had to merge with another company now. So they had 5 million cash. So that was lucky for them. They didn't actually completely go under. Gotcha. So when faced with looking at such a fantastic idea, how do you assess to make sure whether it's got any legs or not? A few questions you ask yourself. One of my management team, how experienced are they? Have they done it before? How successful were they? The product that they're pushing, what's its initial research like? Are there any signs there that it could actually get to market, it could work, it could disrupt the market? What's the market potential for the product? How much money could it make? Look at how many patients are diagnosed with the condition each year, what the current therapies are making, what kind of market share they've got. Will the results of clinical trials prove significant? Obviously, common sense tells you there's no point backing a product that might extend someone's life by a month if there's already another product that people can get that extends it by 6 months. It's really wasting your money. Okay, and a very important question as well, does the company have the funds to get it to its next critical value creation point? If no, can it get the cash? And more importantly, how much does that cost? So we'll have enough money to keep going. And finally, is there a clear pathway to regulatory approval? Very, very, very important there. Have they sat down with the regulator? Have they spoken to them? Have they got clear goals they need to achieve in their clinical trials? No point going through it all, then handing over, and then the regulator saying, sorry, you haven't done what we asked. Good you. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.